The January 15th eruption of Hunga Tonga Hunga Ha'apai in the Kingdom of Tonga stunned the world. The volcano spewed ash tens of thousands of miles into Earth's atmosphere, sent out a shock wave that circled the globe twice, and triggered a destructive tsunami that killed 5. You think Earth is badass? So do we. Well, let's geek out over it together. Eruptions like this remind us that our planet is restless, unpredictable, and sometimes deadly. As mesmerizing as they are, volcanoes can wipe out entire cities. They can send scalding pyroclastic flows racing down their slopes, create tsunamis, and unleash torrents of mud and ash as glaciers melt in their wake. There are plenty of active volcanoes around the world and in space. But in today's video, we're going to focus on the 15 deadliest volcanoes that you should definitely be afraid of. Let's start off with number 15, Galeras, Colombia. Galeras has a deadly reputation, and it earned that title in 1993. During a decade volcano workshop, a team of volcanologists and tourists hiked up to its crater. The volcano had been active, but there were no clear warning signs. Then, out of nowhere, it erupted. 6 scientists and several tourists were killed instantly. Before the eruption, seismologists detected a strange type of earthquake signal called tornillos, Spanish for screws. No one knew what it meant until it was too late. That tragic event changed how volcanologists read warning signs, but it didn't make Galeras any less dangerous. Today, it looms over Pasto, home to nearly 2 million people. It's unpredictable and violent, with a history of large ash falls, deadly pyroclastic flows, and sudden explosions. The city beneath it is always on edge, knowing that when it decides to go again, there may not be much warning. Basically, they're living next to a ticking time bomb. Number 14, Taal Volcano, Philippines. Taal might be small, but it knows how to make a grand entrance. Sitting just 30 miles south of Manila, this volcano has a habit of reminding the world it's not done yet. In January 2020, it erupted without any warning, forcing thousands to flee as ash, steam, and lightning-filled clouds swallowed the sky. The eruption wasn't the first, and it won't be the last. Taal is a high-risk time bomb, with over 20 million people in its reach. It has a history of blowing holes in itself, forming massive craters that eventually filled with water to create Lake Taal. Officials have tried to keep major developments away from the danger zones, but with a volcano this unpredictable, the risk is always there. If Taal decides to go big again, it could send shockwaves across the region, poison the air with sulfur, and bury entire towns under debris. Well, it's only a matter of time. Number 13, Nyiragongo, Democratic Republic of Congo. Nyiragongo isn't just dangerous, it's a monster. Unlike most volcanoes that ooze lava at a slow, predictable pace, Nyiragongo's lava moves like water, racing down its slopes at speeds of up to 60 miles per hour, fast enough to outrun anything in its way. The city of Goma, home to over 1 million people, sits just miles away from this volcano's crater, where an active lava lake has bubbled for decades. And when that lake drains, chaos follows. In 2002, Nyiragongo's lava flows tore through Goma, leveling entire neighborhoods and forcing 500,000 people to flee. It's not just the lava that makes this volcano deadly. Toxic gases, earthquakes, and the ever-present risk of another eruption make it one of the most feared volcanoes on Earth. The worst part? There's almost no international support to monitor it, leaving local scientists scrambling to predict its next move. Number 12, Avachinsky Koryaksky, Russia. On Russia's Kamchatka Peninsula, these 2 volcanoes sit near Petropavlovsk, the region's largest city, though calling it near is generous. This area is so isolated that if an eruption wipes out infrastructure, help won't come fast unless you know Putin. Avachinsky has a nasty habit of collapsing, and when it does, It buries everything beneath thick layers of rock and ash. The last eruption in 2001 wasn't the worst, but history says it's capable of much more. Let's say we don't want that, or are ready for Koryaksky, not far behind, erupted in 2009, sending clouds of ash across the sky. But the real threat here isn't just lava or debris. It's the logistical nightmare of an emergency response. When a major eruption hits, there won't be roads to escape or immediate supplies coming in. Anyone caught in the blast will have to survive on what they have, because outside help isn't arriving anytime soon. It's best to stay away from it. Number 11. Mauna Loa, USA. Mauna Loa might not explode with fury like some of the others on this list, but when it moves big. It's the largest active volcano on Earth, rising almost 6 miles from the Pacific seafloor, and it's had plenty of violent eruptions to remind Hawaii that it's still very much alive. In 1984, lava flows from Mauna Loa came within 5 miles of Hilo, the largest city on the Big Island. That might not sound close, but when you're talking about unstoppable rivers of molten rock, 5 miles isn't much of a buffer. Unlike more explosive volcanoes, Mauna Loa's biggest danger is lava, lots of it, slow-moving but devastating for anything in its path. Scientists closely monitor Mauna Loa because the signs are there. It's building up for another eruption. The alert level sits at yellow for now, but when it finally wakes up, Hawaii will have little time to react. Number 10. Vesuvius, Italy. You knew Vesuvius would be here, because no volcano has a deadlier reputation. The 79 AD eruption that buried Pompeii and Herculaneum in ash is legendary, but that wasn't the last time this mountain took lives. In 1944, it erupted again, and since then, it has been building pressure beneath Naples, home to over 6 million people. Unlike Hawaii's lava-producing volcanoes, Vesuvius is built for destruction. Its eruptions tend to be explosive, launching pyroclastic flows, gas clouds, and deadly ash over massive areas. Scientists have plans in place, but evacuating Naples would be a logistical nightmare. Thanks to decade volcano monitoring, we now have better warning systems, but there's no stopping what's coming. When Vesuvius decides to go again, it won't be just another historical event. It will be one of the biggest disasters of our time. Number 9. Unzen, Japan. Mount Unzen has a violent resume, and no one knows that better than the volcanologists who study it. In 1991, it erupted so explosively that it killed 43 people, including famous volcanologists Maurice and Katia Kraft and Harry Glicken. Their sacrifice helped deepen our understanding of pyroclastic flows, but it also proved just how dangerous Unzen really is. It's not just one volcano. Unzen is a cluster of stratovolcanoes and lava domes. The biggest threat? Collapse. When part of the mountain fell into the sea in 1792, it caused a tsunami that killed over 14,000 people, making it Japan's deadliest volcanic disaster. Unzen has been quiet since 1996, but no one is relaxing. With over 7.3 million people in the region, the next eruption could be just as devastating as the last. Japan is watching, and when Unzen moves again, it won't be ignored. Number 8. Mount Merapi, Indonesia. Mount Merapi isn't just one of Indonesia's most active volcanoes. It's one of the most dangerous on the planet. Sitting in one of the most densely populated regions in Indonesia, with 25 million people in its shadow, it has zero chills when it erupts. Merapi's eruptions don't just spew lava, they unleash pyroclastic flows, fast-moving clouds of superheated gas, ash, and rock that obliterate everything in their path. The 2010 eruption was a nightmare scenario, killing over 100 people and burying villages under a thick blanket of ash. Lahars, huge mudslides of volcanic debris, are another constant threat, turning heavy rains into deadly avalanches of destruction. Merapi has erupted again and again, and every time it leaves scars on the land and the people who live around it. The question isn't if Merapi will erupt again, it's when and how bad it will be. Number 7. Mount Rainier, USA. Mount Rainier is beautiful, iconic, and incredibly dangerous. Standing just 60 miles from Seattle, it's a massive ice-capped volcano that hasn't erupted in centuries. But that doesn't mean it's harmless. Rainier's biggest threat isn't lava, it's mud. This volcano is known for its enormous glacial deposits, and if it erupts or collapses, those glaciers could melt in an instant, sending deadly lahars, aka volcanic mud flows, racing down its slopes at highway speeds. The destruction would be unstoppable, burying towns under layers of rock, ash, and mud. The 1985 Armero tragedy in Colombia is a terrifying warning. When Nevado del Ruiz erupted, its mud flows wiped an entire town off the map, killing 23,000 people. The same could happen with Rainier, and while scientists have better monitoring in place, many residents still live in dangerous areas. The truth is, if Rainier wakes up, thousands may not have time to escape. Number 6. Sakurajima, Japan. Well, now let's talk about the city of anime. Mount Fuji might be Japan's most famous volcano, but Sakurajima is the one constantly proving why it's the real threat. Sitting just 5 miles from Kagoshima City, home to over 2.6 million people, this volcano never truly stops erupting. In 1914, Sakurajima unleashed one of Japan's most violent eruptions, sending lava flows so massive they turned the volcano from an island into part of the mainland. Since then, it's been constantly active, spewing ash, smoke, and small eruptions on a near-daily basis. Children in Kagoshima grow up wearing hard hats on their way to school, just in case the volcano decides to start raining down hot rocks. If Sakurajima erupts on a larger scale, it could send pyroclastic flows racing toward the city, wiping out everything in their path. It's not a matter of if, it's when. Number 5. Colima, Mexico. Colima doesn't wait centuries between eruptions. It's a volcano that likes to stay busy. Sitting in western Mexico, it looms over 1.5 million people, reminding them regularly that they're living next to one of the most volatile volcanoes in the country. It erupts often, sometimes violently. The footage from 2017 shows exactly what Colima does best. Explosive blasts, airborne lava bombs, and towering ash columns. Fires broke out in the surrounding forests, and thick ash coated everything in sight. It's not just lava and eruptions that make this volcano a problem. Massive landslides have wiped out sections of its slopes in the past, sending debris barreling down toward nearby towns. After being named a decade volcano, Colima got better monitoring and updated hazard maps. But all that data won't stop the next eruption. It will only tell people when to run. Number 4. Santorini, Greece. Santorini is more than just a Greek paradise with whitewashed buildings and stunning cliffs. It's a sleeping monster that reshaped civilization. Around 3,600 years ago, a VEI 7 eruption tore through this volcanic island, unleashing tsunamis, ash clouds, and shock waves that may have doomed the Minoan civilization on nearby Crete. Today, 67,500 people call Santorini home, living inside an active caldera. While the island is stunningly beautiful, it's also a time bomb. Scientists have identified at least 4 massive eruptions in the last 180,000 years, proving that when Santorini blows, it does so with deadly force. Thanks to the Decade Volcano Program, Santorini now has a modern volcano observatory monitoring its every move. Occasional seismic swarms hint that it's still very much alive, but for now, it sleeps. The real question: when it wakes up, will we be ready? Number 3. Ulawun, Papua New Guinea. Tucked away in the South Pacific, Ulawun doesn't get the same attention as other volcanic giants, but it should. It's one of Papua New Guinea's most active volcanoes, and when it erupts, it doesn't hold back. For decades, Ulawun's eruptions were small and manageable, but since the 1970s, it's been turning up the heat. In 2000, a VEI-4 eruption blasted ash miles into the sky, and in 2019, it sent plumes so high they caused vivid purple sunsets around the world. While only 61,000 people are at immediate risk, the volcano's growing activity is a concern. The real danger? A major eruption here could trigger massive landslides, sending debris into the ocean and potentially generating tsunamis. Scientists are watching, but nothing about it is clear. Number 2. Santa Maria and Santiaguito, Guatemala. Santa Maria isn't just one volcano. It's a two-part disaster waiting to happen. The towering stratovolcano itself is the old powerhouse, while Santiaguito, the lava dome complex near its summit, is the troublemaker that never stops. Santiaguito erupts regularly, spewing ash and gas, while its domes occasionally collapse, triggering pyroclastic flows that scorch everything in their path. Despite its explosive history, hikers still flock to the summit, posing for pictures above an active lava dome like it's no big deal. But let's not forget what this beast is capable of. Santa Maria's 1902 eruption was one of the biggest in the 20th century, wiping out thousands and leaving behind the permanently restless Santiaguito domes. Government funding for monitoring has been lackluster, with officials more focused on other active volcanoes in Guatemala. But ignoring Santa Maria's history is a mistake. It can do what 100 atom bombs can't. Number 1. Mount Etna, Italy. Etna doesn't take breaks. This is one of Europe's most active volcanoes, constantly shifting, shaking, and spewing lava. But unlike many of its deadly cousins, it doesn't just threaten, it also sustains. Sicily depends on Etna, using its rich volcanic soil for agriculture and tourism dollars from its eruptions. That doesn't mean it's safe. In 1992, a lava flow crawled toward Zaffarana, threatening to wipe it out completely. In a rare move, engineers diverted the lava flow, a trick that usually doesn't work on volcanoes. It saved the town, but it didn't stop Etna from continuing its relentless activity. Etna is unpredictable. While most eruptions are slow-moving lava flows, it has a history of erupting explosively, sending shockwaves and fiery debris across the region. If one of those bigger eruptions happens again, the consequences for Sicily's people and economy could be devastating. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you very soon in the next one.